There are a bunch of amazing cards to pick up right now across the Scarlet and Violet, Sword and Shield, and even the Sun and Moon era. Today we're specifically talking about promo cards. Now some promo cards can be really good value, and on top of that be good to graded and try and get that PSA 10. Now the downside with promos is always quite tricky to get them graded to 10 because of course they usually can get damaged and the like in different types of products. But there are some amazing promos that you can grab right now, which in all honesty, I think they're home runs. So today we'll be looking at TCG Player and at PokeJace and a bunch of these promo cards. We're going to be going through them from 10 down to what I think is going to be the best one to pick up right now. So let's jump into it. Starting things off, we have a Pikachu promo from the Sword and Shield era. Now this one is a really cool looking promo. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a most recent promo of the Paldea Evolved that you get from the Paldea Evolved ETB. We have Pikachu and the starter Pokemon. This is pretty much the same but in the Sword and Shield era. And this is a really cool looking promo. I mean, if you take a look at this, we're looking around $26 for this card. We're going back over the past year, and this card has been falling a little bit, which makes it more appealing to pick up, of course. It is a really nice promo. I like it. Whenever you get like a bunch of, especially the starter Pokemon with Pikachu, it's always really cool. And Sword and Shield has had some very cool looking promo cards, and this is definitely one of them. And the fact is you can pick up one for around about $26 is pretty reasonable. Now when we take a look at this card at the graded prices as well, we can see here that in a PSA 10 we're looking around about $95 for this card, and about 2,000 of them in the PSA 10, which is pretty good. Usually in the Sword and Shield era, cards tend to be a bit easier to grade in a PSA 10, or at least it seems to be that way. But again, promos can be a little bit tricky. When we take a look at the graded price, it's been pretty steady. I mean, it did go just slightly above $100 here and there, but over the past 6 months, it has gone up, which is really good to see. But then when we take a look at the raw price, it has been dropping. With the TCG Player price, sitting above the average market price, this card is getting a little bit cheaper than it was 6 months ago, so it feels more appealing to get it. And if you get it graded, then it's looking pretty good. Sticking with Sword and Shield, we got the special delivery Charizard. This one has been climbing. This one was the Pokemon Center promo over here in the UK, and this one was relatively easy to get hold of. Of course, you basically had to just place an order. I think it was like £20 or more at the Pokemon Center, and you received the special delivery Charizard. And it has been climbing, right? We look at the past 3 months, this card has gone up by 20%, which is pretty impressive, actually. It is a pretty sweet card. I have one in my collection, graded. Did get PSA 9, but it is still pretty cool. But overall, it's gone up by about 8% over the past year, so it has bounced back reasonably well with its prices falling earlier on in the year, but it is doing really well for that bounce back. It is a pretty cool card. Of course, nothing on that same level as a special delivery Bidoof, which is way more expensive, but this is definitely a really cool Charizard that is seeing good value. And of course, when we take a look at the graded prices or the other market prices for this card, we've got $40 on eBay, $40 on TCG Player, which we just saw, on about $53 on Card Market, but then $220 in a PSA 10. It is quite tough to get as a 10. As you can see, there's 13,000 in a 9, which is crazy. Mine got graded a 9. I think both of mine I sent off got graded a 9, but if you can get that in that 10, it is going to be tough. You are going to be rewarded quite nicely. It has dropped a little bit over the past 6 months, only by a smidge in the graded price. When we take a look at the raw price, we can see that pretty much leveled out, right? Actually the average market price was more than it was on TCG Player, but recently they have leveled out between the two of them, although at one point there was about a $10 difference. As we saw from TCG Player, it did bounce back, so it is doing relatively well. And I expect this one to be a good one moving forward, especially if you can get it in a 10. I think it's a pretty good Charizard to get. With Sword and Shield, keeping with Charizard, we have the Charizard VMAX, well, the Charizard UPC promos as a whole. We're just looking at this one today, mainly because this one's my favorite, but pretty much all three across the board have been doing very well. Charizard UPCs have been climbing pretty heavily, in all honesty. They have been, the sealed product of the UPC has been going up. We have now seen that the promos themselves have been going up. So this one in particular, which is the VMAX, has been climbing. It has gone up by 23% over the past 3 months, which is very impressive. Over the past year, this card has climbed nearly 40%. And you're going to see that shift. Yes, there was a lot of UPCs around, and a lot of them opened, but look, they're drying out. It's getting harder and harder to get hold of. They get more and more expensive. They do contain Evolving Skies, which does help it. So now you're going to start seeing these promos, which are, in fact, amazing, going to keep pushing more and more, especially in the raw price. So when we take a look at the Charizard VMAX, we can see pretty much the average market price has been shifting upwards. And even the graded price here is $96. Loads graded in a PSA 9. Again, promos can be quite tricky to get in 10s because they can get damaged, badly off-centered, and the like. And as you can see, over the past 6 months, the graded price has been going up. It's now $96. 6 months ago, we were looking at about $75. So PSA 10 price has been climbing. When we look at the raw price, again, the raw price has been pretty stable over the past 6 months, but it has been climbing, especially on TCG Player. And we saw that already with this Charizard VMAX on TCG Player has been gaining value over the past year, which is very good. And I expect it to shift even more, even though there's a lot of these graded. But then when we take a look at the V-Star, so the V-Star is around $15 to $20, but look at the graded price, nearly $200 in a PSA 10, nearly $15,000 in a 9, and a 9 only sitting at $33. And look at the graded price, it's gone from 100 to nearly doubled, and it's just been climbing month on month. But if you take away from the PSA price, the average price has gone up over the past 6 months, which is pretty good, but they've leveled out between the two of them, just a slight climb ahead on TCG Player, but the V-Star is also growing. And then finally we have the Charizard V OR from the UPC, $83 in a PSA 10, about nearly $6,000 in a 10, but nearly $13,000 in a 9. And again, the PSA 10 price has been climbing, sitting at $83. 6 months ago, it was about $60, so it has been going up pretty nicely. But then when you look at the single card prices, very different, right? Very different. The TCG Player is on the lower end at around $6, whereas the average market price is much more. So it is climbing. I mean, both charts have been climbing over the past 6 months. So all three together are really, really good. Right, we're going to Sun and Moon. We've got the Umbreon and Darkrai GX promo tag team. I love tag team cards, and I do like this one, especially because Darkrai and Umbreon is pretty sweet. And it's a tag team card, and it's Sun and Moon. So let's take a look at this one. This one has been climbing, gone up by 14%. The price is around about $40 odd, which is the most recent sale at $47, which is pretty good going. And over the past year, we've seen this card really making gains, and it's making great strides. Again, it's going to be tough to get in good grades, but this is definitely one to look out for. And it's beautiful, right? Tag team, people love tag team, people love Umbreon. Pretty much anything with Umbreon at the moment has been doing very well. So when we look at the average market price of this one, we're looking around about 45 on TCG Player, which we talked about, 50 on Card Market, 36 on eBay. But look at that in a PSA 10, guys, only 766 in a 10, $360. Crazy stuff. And it really has been climbing from 250 up to 360 in a 10 over the past 6 months. And then we go to the raw price, and we can see that TCG Player has been climbing. It's broken away a little bit from the average market price, but this is still a big money card, a big ticket promo. Going to be tough to get in a 10. Less than 1,000 in a 10, over 2009. This is definitely one to look out for. I think this is a good one. Moving forward, get it at 10 though, it's going to be super tough. Right, we're going into Scarlet and Violet. We have the Pikachu Pokemon Center promo. This is the Paldea Evolved promo from the Pokemon Center ETB, and this one's been climbing. We've seen a big boom recently of the Pokemon Center promos, and especially the Charmander from City and Flames, but the Pikachu as well. Again, similar to the one we looked at earlier with the Sword and Shield, this one's been just absolutely credible and doing very well. It's climbed 46% over the past 3 months, and it is doing just incredible work. And over the past year, it's gone up over 100%, 110% in the past year. It's because people aren't opening up the Pokemon Center ETBs. They're better to keep sealed, but the ones that do open it means there's less of them in the market, which means they're going to keep going up. And, that little Pokemon Center stamp that you get is just absolutely crucial. So this is a big ticket card. Like I said, similar to the Charmander, that's also seen incredible growth. And this is going to be one of them, right? Paldea Evolved. People love the set. This is an amazing promo. It's doing well. So when we look at the Pokemon Center price, we're looking at TCG Player around $40, eBay $34. I think Card Market's a little bit wrong there with $3. It says here PSA 10 is $50. It's probably more than that, right? We've just seen the lower value end of the raw card at $34. So I don't see that being a 10. But overall, this is still a pretty good card. But when we look at the raw price, it really has been booming. So we take a look at the raw price, and it has grown quite a bit over the past 6 months. and TCG Player and the market price have been pretty averaging out. This is definitely one to look out for. Right, going back to Sword and Shield, we have the Vaporeon VMAX. Well, the Evolution Art slash VMAXs are from the premium collection boxes that came out a while ago. All of them across the board have been going up in value, which is very, very impressive. But today we're looking at the Vaporeon, but pretty much any of them are very good. This one has been doing very well. It's gone up by 13% over the past 3 months, sitting around about $41. Over the past year, we're going to see that this has climbed by 42%. It did actually climb higher, so it did actually get about 50%, 56% increase, and it did drop a fair amount, right? So it did really, really well. Sorry, 66%, even better. So it's dropped by about 40%, and then it's bounced back up a little bit. So it is doing relatively well. So of course, when we look at this card, we can see around about $40, a little bit more on Card Market. But look again, another PSA 10, very strong. Over 3,000 of them in 10 though, at $250. Has actually gone up on the past 6 months. It's dropped a little bit from its all-time high, but still doing relatively well. But then when we look at the raw price, again, like we saw on TCG Play, it did drop for that all-time high, but it's still higher than it was 6 months ago. So this is the Vaporeon. Pretty much any of them is going to be pretty good. They are going to be tough to get in a 10. I sent off one of each of these get graded. My Vaporeon VMAX did get a 10, but all the rest got a 9. So it is quite tricky to get that 10, but still really, really sweet cards. Going back to Scarlet and Violet, we've got the Greninja EX. This one was from the Shrouded Fable collection box, and it's a beautiful card, right? It is absolutely phenomenal. Between this and the Kingdra, both of them are just absolutely stunning cards. It's crazy they're not in the set, but they're just in the products. This is still a relatively cheap one at $10. We're not really breaking the bank on this one. And to be honest, it has dropped from the initial release. It dropped by about 20%, but it really has made real good gains recently to kind of get its way back up there to be around about that $10 to $11 mark, which is good, but still relatively cheap, which is, what we want really. But it's the graded value of this card that makes it amazing. So when we take a look at this card, again, the different values, around about $10 to $12 is the value. But look at the graded price, $113. Yes, it has dropped from a crazy high, because obviously they're actually getting graded, right? There's a lot more hitting that market, but still, having a card. But when you look at the average price of this card, obviously it has been falling, but it is a cheap one to grab hold of. Next up, we have the Armored Mewtwo. It's been a while since I've talked about this card. This one I featured in a video months ago, and back then it was relatively cheap. Now when we take a look at this card, it says $12, right? It's not actually $12. It's at a lot more, right? This is for a damaged holo foil. When we take a look at this, the holo foil, so not a damaged one, is $110. So when you look at TCG Player, you're not really going to get a good representation of how much this card truly has grown. It is done incredibly well. So we can take a look at the Armored Mewtwo. It has done really well, right? So we've got TCG Player $110, eBay and Card Market are a little bit off because we're looking at the real good value of this card, undamaged as it were. Look at this in a PSA 10, nearly $800, only $273 in a 10. Even in a 9, we're looking $98 in this one. So yes, in the PSA 10, this card has boomed like absolutely crazy. It is a gorgeous looking card. But when we look at the raw price for this one, yeah, TCG Player and the average card market value is going to be different, mainly because of the card quality, right? We saw on TCG Player when the card quality is bad, it's like a $10 promo. But in reality, it's a lot more. It is climbing over time. It is a beautiful, stunning card. Tough to get hold of, especially in a really good condition. That's why it fetches such a high price point, especially in a PSA 10. Then we got the Squirrel Pokemon Center promo. This one has been doing okay. It's still relatively expensive, sitting at $75. Has been dropping. Now's a great time, mainly because it's getting hard to get hold of. Over here in the UK, you were able to pick these up with the UPC for $120, which was absolutely amazing. About a month ago, you could have quite easily got hold of the Squirrel promos. Squirrel promos over here go for about $25 to $30, so they are a lot cheaper, but we have seen them fall from their highest price point pretty much 3 months ago. And we go back a year, and we can really see the starting to fall of this card, because more of them are coming into the market. Yeah, you see the big drop happen when everybody could get it from the Pokemon Center website, and then it started to dry up a little bit, and we started to see it climb. But then recently, a lot of people just, again, off selling a lot of their copies. You may find also people from over here in the UK selling their copies, as well. and stuff like that. So this is going for $75. Like I say, I still think this is going to be a very good one to pick up, especially with the recent price drop, because it will bounce back. We see 151 go crazy at the moment. This is definitely one to look out for. So let's take a look at the promo. So we see 45 on eBay, 74 on TCG Player. Card market is not $3. It is more than $3. I promise you that. So over here in the UK, you're looking at about £30. So PSA 10 is 156, which is insane. PSA 10, we've seen the price. Don't know where that weird spike was, but we pretty much see a slight climb over the past 6 months. But when we take away the graded price, we can see that it has been falling, and we saw it on TCG Player as well. So that makes it more appealing. You know, we've seen 151 boom, you know, and this is obviously from 151. So this is definitely one to grab, because I think it will climb. I think it will see a nice little bounce back over time, because it's an exclusive promo. It's going to get hard to get in a 10. So this is definitely one to look out for. And then finally today, we got the Pikachu in the grey felt hat. This is an incredible promo, and this is going to do well. You know, it's already doing well. Over the past 3 months, this card has boomed 42%, which is absolutely crazy. Over the past year, this card is still trying to bounce back up to where it once was, but it did actually drop, right? It dropped to $83, and from going to 83 up to now 130 is very, very impressive. It's got a long way to go to get back up to 172, but I think he'll get there, right? I do think he'll get there. It's hard to get hold of this anymore, right? You think about it. Limited supply, very cool looking promo, and I think this one will be probably one of the best promo cards to come out of Scarlet and Violet. Because when we look at the average market price across the board and the graded prices, we can see here that this card, 114 on eBay, 134 on card market. But look at this, guys. PSA 10, 29,000. 23,000 were graded a 9. This is by far the most graded card in the Scarlet and Violet era. Absolutely bonkers. I've got one to send off myself. Hopefully it gets a 10. But even a 10, it's at that many, it's still over double its value. And it has been climbing. I mean, we go back 6 months, it was about $200. And I will look at 270. So it's been doing really well. And if we look at this as well, it's been going up raw price over the past 6 months. So this card is climbing. Bearing in mind how many of them are out there, it's really good. There you have it, guys. Those are some great promos to pick up right now across 3 different eras. You know, and the Pokemon Center ones really are booming, right? Especially in the Scarlet and Violet era. You know, because we haven't seen the Pokemon Center promos like that in previous eras. They introduced it in Scarlet and Violet, and people just not open them. And pretty much every single promo across the board has been doing really well from the Pokemon Center. Like I said, people aren't opening up. That stamp makes a huge deal. And especially if they get graded in a 10, they can be worth an absolute fortune. So that's one to, you know, keep in mind whether or not you want it to open or not. But they are definitely great. And of course, promo cards are always quite tough to get in a PSA 10. Because like I said, they can be damaged. Or it could also be like, you know, not really good centered and the like. So keep that in mind, but those are some really fantastic promos to definitely pick up, and especially to invest in the long term. If you made it far to the video and you've enjoyed it, make sure to smash that like button and make sure to subscribe for more Pokemon content. And let me know your thoughts down in the comments about these promos. Is there any other promos which you guys can think of that are really good right now? The Armored Mewtwo has really shocked me at how expensive that has become, especially in a PSA 10. It's just absolutely wild. And yeah, so is the Pokemon Center promos. That has surprised me as well. You know, even when we're talking about stuff like the Charmander, which we didn't look at today, but that has been one that's just been going crazy. But there's some great ones that you can pick up from the Sword and Shield here as well. Charizard UPC promos are climbing. I expect that the 151 UPC promos to also start climbing now. That's getting more expensive. So we've got to keep an eye out for those ones as well. But that is it from me, guys, in today's video. If you watch more Pokemon content, make sure to click the video on the screen. And of course, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And as always, you guys are legends. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.